because they're taking a compiler that they've already constructed here. They're calling apply and then applying on it. I feel like there has to be a method called apply, but they're applying. They're passing the compiler as this context, and then options.plugins in as arguments. But then I can't find in the compiler, which is right here, I expect to see a function called apply.
It hasn't even opened that window yet.
Why
don't you just do a regular hangout? It might be faster that way. Have you tried the new one, the Meet?
Yeah, well, Sean's gonna join, so it doesn't matter with the lag on the stream, because the lag on the stream is real time. It's all about your perspective.
But will your audio be lagging?
Nope, everything will be lined up.
This seems slower though.
Yeah.
That's really creepy.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Was that something else? I don't remember you saying that.
I don't know. I need to understand how this works. So strange. Just recreate what they have. Their class foo. What? No. Class foo. Right. Finishing. This one. Okay, cool. Unfortunately, class was supported. Class A. Oh yeah. Python. Cool. Class A. Good. New A. Yes. So A is equal to new A. Dot apply. Apply. Yeah. So they have to be doing something. Compiler equals new compiler. Compiler. Webpack compiler. This stuff parser. Yeah, I'm struggling to see where this actually works. So much fun.
What are you figuring this out for?
I just want to understand how this actually works.
What, for that project?
So here's apply, but apply is only defined in the parser. It's confusing. Because we know that we do compiler.apply. I see that we have this work setting from the base class tappable. Tappable. Ah, useful. This is where the magic comes from. Tappable. Tappable is a class for plugin binding and applying. Yeah, obviously. Okay, so how does this work? We say class, we extend it, or mix it in. Tappable is a class for plugin binding and applying. Okay, so we create an apply function. Yeah, that helps. Attaches all plugins passed as arguments to the instance by calling apply on them. Plugin names are the names or single name of the plugin interfaces of the class provide, or of the plugin interface. Names are the names or single name. Okay. Handler is a callback function. Class, this is instance. Okay, let's look at the source here because we're just concerned with apply right now. Indirection is so much fun. Arguments. Sub I dot apply this. Okay. So we are calling each argument with this, which is going to be our compiler, I think. Copy permalink. Cool. So back to our apply. So we're going to apply each one of these plugins on our compiler instance. Cool. So now that we have okay. So now the next question is who's actually running each? So who's running each plugin? So we're in our compile Webpack, and then we go to our compiler. We've constructed it. We have gone in and applied each of our plugins. Okay. And now the question is who's actually running this? We call compiler dot run. All right. Very well. Now let's look at the run implementation. Okay, looks like we save out a start time. That's useful. We step into some more logic. Uncompiled looks like a callback. Then we call this dot apply plugins async. Apply plugins async before run. Then we say apply plugins async run. That's something. So I'm guessing that this is some kind of filter question mark, and these are categories question mark. Okay. So let's look at the implementation of apply plugins async. I remember I saw this implemented on the compiler. It's not obvious to me where this is actually defined.
Oh, hey.
I hear Sean. I think I hear Sean.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. It's going good. Going good now. Getting kids to bed is always fun time.
Especially in Nebraska.
Especially in Nebraska.
Yeah, got the chickens too. It's a big
Chickens
deal.
everywhere.
All right, let me catch you up where I am right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm trying to just understand from when we start Webpack, when you run it, to how it actually loads the plugins and loaders and how all that gets run and who manages running all that. So I started out in bin Webpack, which then pointed me into lib Webpack. And then from lib Webpack, we basically call into a compiler, and then we are applying each plugin. And the apply was so cleverly removed from the obvious location and in another module, intappable. So, you know, finding a nice for loop that calls apply on arguments was fun.
Yes, indeed.
And then we run compiler.run in Webpack. So
now, a piece that maybe you did see it already. So inside of the Webpack function that is in the lib version, so webpack.js under the lib folder, there is an important piece which registers a bunch of environmental and config based calls, which is Webpack options apply and options defaulter. Okay.
And I saw that there's a validation schema validation in here too. Webpack options validation errors classic.
Yeah.
And then if you have any errors, you're throwing. Okay. And then there's this thing called multi-compiler, which I'm not going to pay attention to right now because I can sort of just infer what that is.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, and then run. You're right. So like basically in the bottom, or back in the CLI, it's .run.
Right. It's if a callback is passed, we just invoke run by default. Otherwise, we return the compiler, which then we invoke run. Okay.
Correct.
I'm on that page. We're good. Okay.
All right.
So now inside of the compiler, which seems to be the majority of the magic happens. Well, I don't know yet, but more magic than anywhere else so far. We start doing this work. Apply plugins async. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Let me find the. Okay, here it is. So we're doing this thing in the main compile function, where we do this apply plugins async before run.
Correct.
And then we have a nested callback that then does this .apply plugins run. And then
so that just allows plugins to do things before the run, but yeah.
Oh, and then during the run?
So yeah, exactly. So it's like at before run and then run. So basically like lifecycle events.
Okay, that makes sense. And then we do this .read records thing, and then actually call this .compile ?
Correct. That's when essentially the next step is.
Okay. So I wanted to understand exactly what this .apply plugins async was doing before we go any further, which you know, I'm trying right now to actually find where that is defined.
Which is tappable. Yep.
Oh, that's intappable. Oh, great.
Yeah. Oh, so actually,
of course.
Jump back to the compiler, and I can. It depends on like your IDE or what you're viewing it in, but so if you go to compiler and you scroll down to line 170.
Yep. I am in it.
Compiler extends tappable, which makes it essentially this just means you can plug into it, and it's going to inherit a bunch of mixed in or extended properties, which are anything that starts with apply plugins. So all of that will be contained in tappable.
Okay. That makes sense. So looking at tappable now at apply plugins async.
Mhm.
So many functions. Let's just look at that. Oh, great. So apply plugins async series is the exact same as apply plugins async. That's
Correct.
Nice. That's clever.
It was one of those compatible, yeah. Yeah. Legacy Compat edition.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay. So what are we doing here? We're taking the arguments, we're slicing off the first argument.
It's basically like if you did the spread operator and
Yeah.
then a terminal last argument,
Yeah. Okay.
which is a callback.
And then if there are no plugins, you're eager exiting, just returning
Yep.
callback. Otherwise, you're args.push.
This one's interesting, and I can explain.
Args.push. Okay, so wait, args is now our array that is n length with the first one dropped off. Oh wait, no, with the tail one dropped.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's n minus 1 length of our array. We are now pushing a copy properties of callback, which is our last argument.
Yep.
No, our second to last argument of the original arguments. Oh, of course, yes. If error, return callback. Okay, what is copy properties? That's a good question.
So copy properties is like a implementation for mixin, I guess. I think it's at the top of the file for tappable.
Just had it. Here it is. Oh, yes. Ooh, for key in from. Great.
Yeah, so like from one object to the next, take all properties and assign them over, or do like a clone, a shallow clone, I guess.
Yeah, so whoa.
Why am I in this?
Ben's mic coming in hot.
Oh, Ben.
So much feedback. I'm going deaf.
Let me just mute Ben.
Mute him.
He is now muted. All right, Ben, you're muted. I'm sorry. Okay, that was really exciting for a second. Ben came
Yes.
from the fifth dimension to shout at us. Okay, so we were doing that.
Copy properties.
Properties.
Yep.
Let me hop over to my file. Where's my file? Oh, there it is. Okay, copy properties. So this is doing our shallow clone, which is actually clobbering the values. So it's taking whatever we have in from and overriding to.
Correct.
Okay.
Or just assigning, depending on how you think of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben's probably very sad that we muted him. Let me, and I'm gonna kick you out and you can rejoin. Okay, great. Okay, copy properties, great. So we are doing apply plugins, async, blah, blah, blah. So we're copying properties from callback as a function or an object. So what is this doing exactly? Because copy properties was looping over all the keys or all the iterable keys
Mm-hmm.
of callback, which, you know, a callback,
And
you
then-
typically think that's a function. So you're saying that this function has properties?
Yeah, so essentially, I can give you the layman's rundown. So the resolver, which is another kind of instance, tappable instance, leverages this to take properties and have it added. So I think it's the inner callback or the inner callback process. Let me see. I haven't had this documented myself because I have asked the same question like 5 times and had to take a moment to remember what it was.
All right.
So essentially, enhance resolve puts extra info into the properties of the callback function. And so this allows it to this right here makes that possible. So it's kind of like allowing to conjoin additional properties into the callback.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's for logging, I believe. And we can look at the resolver if you want to, or we can skip it and come back afterwards if we get that deep. But yeah, essentially the callback will have additional properties on it since it's just an object or function, same thing. Because yay JavaScript.
I guess that makes sense. So we'll say that. Okay. So where is this actually doing? This isn't doing any work. Oh no, it is. It's calling plugins sub I, which is each plugins
For each.
Is the so right here. Doesn't this mean because we're doing this dot plugins? And does Tappable even know about plugins? Oh, it does. They're empty.
It does. Yep.
Okay. It's walking over each of the plugins and calling apply on them with this context of the compiler.
Yeah. So whatever that tappable instance is, its instance gets passed in as an argument in addition to whatever other arguments are passed through. So in this case, when the compiler calls it, it's going to pass the compiler, and then any other argument will go along with it into a callback function. Release for async ones. And
then at the very bottom, we're taking the first plugin and invoking it, question mark.
Yes. So because this is async, so apply plugins async will, if you think about the 198 through 206, this is doing the args.push, and then it has the callbacks for it. So that's like iterating through, I believe. Let me scroll up. Oh yeah, because it's doing if, and then is there a when? When is it doing I++? How does it return? Plugins, if this, callback function next. And
yeah, this is here. Let's just rip this out and do. This is a very dense piece of code.
It is.
So, as in.
Oh yeah, you're right. It does start at 0 and then it continues to iterate.
Yeah. Here, let me just paste. This is going to be very strange. Let me clear all the formatting here. Oh gosh, I think it pasted a table, didn't it? Like clear, paste without formatting. Yeah, look at that. I'm a Google Doc master. That's what they teach you at Google, how to format Google Docs. I'm not really kidding.
I haven't taken my Office classes yet, so we'll get there.
Oh yeah, we can battle. Okay, let's just step through this real quick because I'm very stupid on this. Okay, so name is a string. We'll just do some
implicit typing. Yeah.
Annotations here. And then arguments that slice. So we're just going to say that this takes args, some glob of args.
Yep.
So that means that if we call, let's just make this easier. Apply plugins. Okay, great. So if we call apply plugins with a name of Sean, and then we know
however many args you want.
We know we're passing it a function in the compiler code. So let's just also call. We have two additional arguments which are just functions. So let's step through with what this is doing. So args slice.call argument sub1. So at this point, args is going to be an array of 2 functions. Like this.
Yep.
And
no. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think args. Yeah, I think I'm right. Okay, callback then is going to be. Let's just color code these because we're. Okay. Oh no, we're gonna make it Comic Sans.
Oh God.
So callback at this point is our pop, which is going to be this one.
The final, yeah.
Yep. Okay. And now args is going to equal, since we popped it, which is going to mutate it. Args is now just a single element that is our Comic Sans function.
Yep.
Oh yes, of course. Everything is so obvious. It is not obvious. And then we are saying plugins is equal to this dot plugins sub name. So it means that our plugin is going to be Sean. This will be whatever Sean is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially it's the array of plugins that are listening to that event.
Array of plug. Okay.
Yep.
Then we say, are there any plugins? Or does plugins even exist? So is anything registered for them?
Yep.
And if there is anything registered, is the array, actually, is there anything in there? If not, we just return.
You're excellent.
Now we take, we save off our this context here.
Mm-hmm.
And was there a reason why we did this way versus the arrow function? Some weird optimization thing?
Oh, I think it's because we're not using classes, right? Or wait, is this using classes?
He's not using classes.
Yeah.
We could use an arrow function here. Oh, no, arrow function would work, I think. Whatever, we can ignore it.
Yeah.
Oh, here, let's call this the J editor dot. Just for J. Okay, so we'll go args dot push. Args is our array that only has one element, so we're.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So basically, the arguments that we're going to pass through to the plugin itself from the hook.
Copy the properties. Okay, I feel like I have enough, and then we invoke the first one.
Yep.
Plugin sub-zero. Plugin sub-zero. But this, I'm confused why we only call the first one.
So at least let me think. So it's the args.push copy properties. Essentially, there's something that calls it back, and then it goes to the next one because it's doing I++. So if I is greater than or equal to the length of the plugins, then you call back. But then otherwise, it's doing the plugins I apply.
If I is greater than or equal to the plugins.length, when would that happen? Why would I ever be greater than plugins.length?
My guess is so like for example, it's trying to invoke these sequentially but asynchronously still. So a good example is how the
pin my screen. Let me.
Yep.
Can I do this? Present. Wait, how do I pin this out? I feel like I can do this.
They're probably just like looking at my face, like, get out of here.
You're drinking that Red Bull.
Oh, you've been watching.
Well, like,
open source.
How do I pin it?
Breakfast is open.
I feel like I can do it. Settings.
Oh, it's like you have to click on your screen or whatever, and it should stay on you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm now. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm definitely pinned now. Man,
Mm-hmm.
you know the things better than me. Okay, great. All right, let's just assume that we have an okay understanding of apply plugins. I definitely do not, but we can just pretend like we do. Okay, because we still haven't actually gotten to where it does any work yet, I don't think, unless the plugins are actually doing anything or doing something when we call apply on them.
Yeah, so like when you call apply, you should look at the anatomy of the plugin itself, like of a plugin that listens to that hook. So
Okay, so
I will spare you the trouble, and you can open up Node Environment plugin, which uses that before run hook.
okay, let's go there. I don't even know where to look. What folder?
My guess is it's going to be, where is it? It's under lib/node.
Okay. Lib, node environment plugin. Great.
Yep. All right, so you'll see that.
Here's our friend, our apply. And is there a
is.
reason that this doesn't extend tappable?
So it doesn't extend tappable itself. All that tappable needs to know is that whatever instance or object is hooked into it has an apply method that can be called.
Okay, sure. I'll just yes, sure. Okay, so this is just to cycle back here. This apply
That right there.
that okay. And that is
That
going
is
to
exactly what's being called.
Okay, so we say, what are we doing here? We are doing input file system is doing stuff. Node.js input file system. Compiler. Oh, so is this registering?
So that's the actual hook that it's listening to. Apply gets called, and the compiler is passed in which the event is now waiting to be called.
Okay, so this is actually where the registration happens with the compiler?
So well, the registration is going to be, so that's the registration for the event, or you can consider the event listener. Okay. The plugin itself, let's see where it's added. Oh, can you hear my kid in the background?
Yeah, they're having fun.
Yeah. It is being invoked at webpack.js under lib, line 30.
Let me hop back over to Webpack lib. Oh, tappable. I don't care about tappable. Webpack node environment. Okay, well, I don't know where it is. Well, I can jump. Here, let me just Webpack lib. Webpack.
And then Webpack.js.
Okay. Cool. Line 30. Node environment. Okay, so this is where it's actually getting set up.
So that's, yes, the registration of the plugin. That plugin is stored in that array on the compiler. And then
what about for like userland plugins? Where do we actually register those? Because that's like this.
So it's the identical process. It's just that Webpack options apply does the double apply, where it's like plugins.plugin.
Oh,
like
right
that.
Here it is. Compiler.apply.apply compiler, and this is looping over each of the plugins. This is tappable and just calling apply on each of them. Exactly. So that, I don't know. For me, that indirection here is really confusing, but I don't know. Like for this call, and just replacing this with a loop that calls apply seems like it would clarify this a lot. I agree. I feel like we're also doing it in Webpack options apply as well, but it's in a far more understandable way. It's like this dot options dot. No, it is right there. I'm traditionally used to seeing it just as like compiler dot apply, and then you just pass a unlimited args of new instances of plugins. But yeah, you're right. This is kind of, how would you say, backwards looking. Indirect. Yeah. Fine. Indirect. Whatever. Okay, so we call apply.apply, which then calls apply, and then any userland plugin would then register or add event listeners via compiler.plugin. Yep. And that's a tappable method. And then you go to tappable.
think that one might be at the bottom. I can't remember.
Yep, here it
Yep,
is.
there it is.
Okay, and this is what's actually adding it to the registry.
Yep.
This
So-
plugin. Okay, so I guess for the thing that I was sort of interested in doing, which is wrapping every single plugin in some sort of instrumentation,
Mm-hmm.
it would actually be here because I would wrap the plugin in an anonymous function that would have the logging metrics that would write to some object.
Yeah, most likely. This would do it at the event hook level, right there.
Which is, I mean, if we look at the node one, for example, so if we would modify at that level, what I would end up getting is we'd get a category, which is before run.
Yep.
Potentially, I could do some shenanigans where I'd get the file name.
Yep.
Somehow, and then I would wrap this code right here in another function.
And get the R's and everything.
Yeah, and then put the timing wrapper around this.
That would be the place to do it.
Okay. Well, that's just so swell, Sean. That's just really swell.
That's it. It's just JavaScript.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's a lot of other code in Webpack, but if you
80% of it is plugins and hooks.
And are loaders just a plugin, or are loaders something else?
Loaders are an interesting piece of, I don't know, I always tell people it's like a piece of glue. I can give you like the 10-minute rundown, or even 5-minute rundown if you want.
I mean, I'm just curious where in the life cycle of things that they.
So it happens. So Webpack does a breadth first search traversal of a graph starting with the entry point, but it needs to resolve it first. So the best place to start is, like I showed you, the entry options, but really you jump into compilation.
Okay.
And you'll be at add entry, which is the method name.
Gotcha.
So in super fast terms, I guess, or first thing it's going to do is it's going to prepare a object which is going to represent the chunk in the future, which is this encapsulation around a flattened array of modules. And it's going to push it, basically this slot, into a prepared chunks property. And then it's going to call add module chain. Now add module chain takes 3 arguments, or it's 4, but the second 2 are callback functions. So essentially what
the last 2.
Yeah,
I like the second 2. Though.
Yeah. The second half. So add module chain is where you would jump to if you wanted to follow. Yeah.
Okay.
Add module chain, which is I think line 362, and then. So what happens here is some more callback shenanigans, but essentially, so it is first going to check and do any, let's see, it's going to do our own profiling.
Yeah, I noticed that you guys keep some sort of timestamps around certain actions, but not everything, and it's kind of generic that you dump out into the stats.json.
It's not actionable to the point that some people are looking for. But yeah, we try to get some basic timings.
Oh wait, another bind. What's up with this?
Let's see. Error and callback, error and callback.
Is it because error and callback was called by? No. Well, potential change here, I think.
I like it.
Arrow function here.
Arrow function that.
Okay, continuing on.
Yes. So
add module chain so that we're
figuring out. So the most important part to know is essentially so what we're doing is it's looking for the module factory, or it's going to go get it from dependencies factory. Okay. So if you think about the entry option plugin, it actually adds a dependency. Where is it? Or no, I'm sorry. It's like we can jump into single entry plugin, which is just called from entry option.
Okay.
Sorry, we're jumping around.
Single entry plugin.
So in single entry plugin, we see that we have this single entry dependency.
Make. Great.
And it has, yeah, so in the compilation hook and the make hook, this dependency factory is set, and then we have this like normal module factory. And then it creates what is called a dependency, which is a encapsulation for an edge on the graph. If you think about the graph, modules are nodes, dependencies are edges that are unresolved and point towards other nodes.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So is there a definitive list of events that people can register for?
Yeah, all you have to do is do command find in your IDE and search apply plugins.
Wait, seriously?
That's the best way that like we have some lists, but they're not the most, like I just do apply plugins and that's it.
Oh,
And then you'll probably get every single hook that
wow.
exists.
So that seems like a potentially nice thing. That'd be easy to do.
Yeah, it's not the best, but you know, like you can do a little matching, or you could broaden the search to be more than just apply plugins. You can do all the tappable methods.
Okay, well,
That'll give you all the synchronous ones. So apply plugins won't do a callback to terminate the plugin like at the end of it. So
and this all goes back to tappable because there's apply plugins, and then there's apply plugin 0, which is my second favorite. My first favorite is plugins 1. Now, the one that I really don't like a lot is apply plugins 2. It's just kind of there. It's like, I'm not a great friend of people.
Yeah. Could be worse, could be better.
Well,
yeah.
I'm kind of under the impression that there's a way that we could make this better, but
so by all means, tell me about it. The reason why we started doing this is because we realized that variadic arguments were kind of slow and gets deops by the engine. So to not be a breaking change, which, you know, by changing this file, we end up breaking every plugin essentially.
Well, it reminds me of some Backbone code actually. Oh yes, we don't want to read the min code.
Oh,
let's see if
yeah.
it's still in there. Switch. Here it is. This, yes. It reminds me a lot of this pattern from Backbone. Have you seen this before?
Ooh, yeah. I've never seen that before, but that's great.
Yeah, so it's the same kind of problem that you're dealing with, and they deal with it by having a wrapper function that destructures the arguments and then does a call and then an apply for the fall through.
Interesting.
So, you know, something to think about.
That'd be more readable.
I would agree. Maybe I'll just
interesting.
We'll just do a little issue. We investigate patterns to avoid V8 deopt by borrowing from Backbone.
Perfect.
I don't know. It's function 1, function 2. Maybe something like this.
Ooh, go to preview. I want to see if it shows up.
Oh, right, because I just pushed that new thing.
Get him feature.
Preview. No, I bet if I link. Oh wait, if I link directly to the code, I think there's a thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Copy permalink. Webpack. Okay. I bet
Whoa.
Ugh, whatever. I'm just gonna paste it.
That's all right. I like it.
I mean, I like it too. Something to think about. Okay. Well, I feel like I understand about 2,000 more percent of Webpack than I did an hour ago. So
Yes.
I
That's good.
I appreciate your time, Sean. This was illuminating to me, and hopefully we found some interesting things.
I did. Yeah, that actually is a good idea, and we could probably avoid a bunch of crap by using that pattern. I don't know why we've never thought about it.
Well, you know.
Oh yeah. So before you jump off the world, just go to normal module. I'm sorry, normal module factory and normal module, and I'll show you where that specific code is happening.
In lib?
Yep.
Or,
I believe it's in lib.
okay, normal module and normal module factory.
Yeah, so normal module.js is the one you'll probably want to go to first, whereas the point of execution for loaders.
Okay.
So if you jump down to line 181.
So, okay. 181, run loaders.
Okay, so the process at the high level is like this. Just so once Webpack resolves the path, it's going to collect the source and all the information and wrap it in a module object-oriented style. And so it has the raw source and everything.
Yep.
And then Webpack's going to try to parse it. But before it does that, it's going to run it against loaders, which are just functional. Are they pure? No, I guess you can add side effects. Maybe you can't. Anyways, so they're just functional transforms that are applied against a single source file, one at a time during the depth traversal process, just before it gets added to the dependency graph. Because everything is treated like a module.
Okay.
Webpack doesn't know any better, so loaders allow you to say, like, well, if it's TypeScript, you can run the TypeScript loader. It's going to convert that into JavaScript, and then it can be added to the dependency graph. Gotcha. So they're kind of like tasks, but they're separated from like a grunt or gulp task because it's happening kind of imperatively as the graph is being built, one file at a time. And so when you change one file, you're only running the loaders for that specific file and any sub-dependencies in the graph.
Interesting.
And I think
source map callback. Okay, I think that makes sense. There's a lot of questions that I have, but it's fine.
Yep.
I get high level, and then normal module factory. Oh gosh, normal module factory.
So normal module factory is like this. Basically, it creates the actual. It calls new normal module. So I think you could probably just search new, and you'll find it in.
Oh, okay.
Normal module. Yep. So that's basically passes in all that information, and then it's going to call like an event hook, which triggers. Or no, I'm sorry. Inside the normal module constructor is where the loaders are actually ran. I believe that is in the constructor. Oh no, I'm sorry. Do build.
Do build, yeah. Create loader context.
And then do build, I think, is like a function. It all comes back to the compilation under the add module chain or whatever. But I think there's even a part where it's like async dot like add dependency chain or something like that, or fetch dependencies. But essentially, you kind of have to follow the callbacks kind of in and out between the module factory, the module, and the compilation. And you'll kind of see it happen.
Okay, so I guess the important part for me to understand, or what I wanted to understand, was how when it boots up and plugins run. So we go from bin Webpack to lib Webpack. which creates the compiler, which then applies each of the plugins from options via tappable, and then each plugin, I think we could just write class plugin. That'd be apply.
And then whatever the tappable instance is passed into the apply method.
Yeah. And then it's just this dot
Plugin.
Yeah, plugin make do something.
Arguments.
Yep. Okay, so this would be like, and then I think there's an error. Was there an error or something? Something like this.
Yeah. So like for example, if it is an asynchronous plugin, the last argument in that will be a callback function, which you need to invoke to inform the tappable instance that it's finished. And then if it's not an async apply plugins call, then yeah, you'll just get arguments that are passed in.
Okay, cool. Great.
Yep. That's it.
Neat. And I am a Webpack pro. I'm definitely going to put that on my LinkedIn.
Do it.
All right. Well, thanks, Sean, for taking some time tonight to run through this.
Where's the YouTube live link for this? I want to go troll it.
I don't know. I'll send it to you after I go offline. So.
All right.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
See you, man.